Alright, it's going to be another little mini tutorial here just on how to build this little password input thing. Basically what it does is you can set, hang on, let's just get rid of this group. Alright, what you do is you set a password, which is this column here, and then when you input, each input has a different value attached to it, and that's pretty much it. The output here, in this case I've got end event, but you know, you can set that to whatever you want. I'll just show you what it's like in action. If I bring up the enabled, okay. Alright, so basically what happens is when you press a button, it checks to see whether it's the correct button. If it's not, then it resets the password to 0. And then if it is the correct button, you've got like a certain amount of time, which can also be set in the vector, to press the next button, otherwise it'll reset as well. So basically, if you look in the vector, the first column is the password, the second column, the first number, is how many digits is in the password. So if you've got that set to 2, if that's set to 2, then it will only require the first 2 numbers of the password, and then it'll activate. So you want it to set to 5. I mean, you can make the grid as big as you want, like lengthwise anyway. I mean, if I just leave it at 10, and then you can put like as many digits as you want. And this is the time between each like input. It's in ticks, remember, so 60 ticks is 1 second, so you've got 1 second to press the next digit before it resets itself. 1 second is actually quite long, so I would recommend sort of less. So that's like half a second. So if you see here, you've got the linear data source just like in the middle. That'll count up when it hits 10,000. It will reset. So if I press a button, it'll, because I'm pressing the correct button. The first button in the code is RB, left bumper, sorry, not RB, but yeah. And then the next one, or if I do it fast, I can end it if I put the correct code in. And obviously if you get any of the digits wrong, it resets and you've got to start again. So it's pretty good for, you know, hiding stuff. No one's going to be able to guess like a 10-digit code unless you tell them. So yeah, let's build it. Also, actually, it's worth noting that you can sort of condense this whole thing down once it's been built. You can make it a bit smaller, like one of these ones here. It's a bit nicer on the eyes, really. If you're gonna stick it in your favorites, you know, you probably want something like this little one here instead of having this in your favorites, because it's a bit of a mess. But yeah, I'm gonna build it now, so I'll stop talking about it. I'm just gonna move this out of the way. And this is my first time rebuilding it. I only built this like a few hours ago, so I'm sorry if I've got to refer back to it every now and then just to make sure I'm doing it right. Hopefully I won't need to too much, but also I'm probably just going to skip the buttons because it's quite tedious and it's not really necessary to show you how to build it. I'll just do a few examples and you can add whatever buttons you want. So basically you want your inputs. So let's just say I'm going to do the bumpers because they're quite easy to press. Left bumper, right bumper. Now each one of those digits is going to be assigned a value. So you want a set value event for each one. That one's going to be 0, this one's going to be 1. And then any more inputs that you add, you're going to increase the value. So like none of the inputs should have the same number, basically. So you want to link those up. On press, you don't have to worry about the other ones, just on press for everything. Oops, okay. and then you want a data source, a variable data source. This is going to be the comparison value to check to see if the actual button is the same as the one for the code. So you want both of these linked to that. This is you're also going to want your 2D vector. This is going to be where you store all the information. You want a get vector. This is going to be the first. This is going to be the number in the actual code. So you want to set this to 2. Let's just say we'll have 5 values. Remember, if you've got 5 values, you want this number here to be 5. This is going to be linked up to that vector. Index number 0, so it's pulling from the first column. And then the row is going to be linked to another variable data source. I'll just steal this one because it's easier. So the row is going to be linked to that. It's going to start on 0, of course. So basically what's going to happen here is you want a generic filter. Oops, that's not a generic filter. This one is. It's going to compare this value with this value, and if it's true, it's going to, let's just grab another one of these. Actually, no, we use this box here. So if it's true, I'm just going to steal this again. Sorry if this is going to make it a bit more confusing to follow, but it's a bit faster. Clear the target, link it to that instead. It's going to be set to increase by 1 on true. I'll steal this again. Going to change it to set 0, same target, on false. You can link these two up for now, but we will be changing them a bit later. So basically what that's doing is it's going to send the value to there. It's going to check to see if that's the same as the actual value that's in the password. If it is, it's going to increase this, which is going to increase to the next digit. If it isn't, it's going to reset this back to 0. Alright, so that's pretty easy. Alright, so next, let's just have a little look. Yeah, okay. Let's do the time now. So for this, you're going to need a curve data source. This can go to any number from 0 to, I had it set to 10,000, so I'm going to have it set to 10,000 again. I probably should have I'm just going to leave it at 100 actually, okay. You're going to need another generic filter. This time, you're going to need 2 state events. One of them is going to be set to off, the first one. The next one's going to be set to on. They're both going to be connected to this data source, the curve. Alright, now, these two, instead of going straight to the generic filter, they're actually going to pass through this. So what that's doing is, it's resetting, well actually it's not resetting it because this needs to be disabled and it needs to reset when disabled. So basically when you press a button, it's going to turn it off, it's going to reset it, and then it's going to start counting up, and if it hits 100, oh we're there, where did I put the delay? The delay is after. Okay, yeah, so I need an impulse splitter. Where the hell is it? Alright. Impulse splitter here. That's going to actually go from this state event. Sorry if this is a bit sort of all over the place, but I didn't have it sort of memorized. And then you want a delay as well. the delay is going to go to this generic filter, and this splitter is going to go to that generic filter and the delay. Alright, so the generic filter here is going to compare the value of this to 100, and if it's true, then it's going to go down to this set 0. So basically what's happening is, if it times out, if this reaches the max value of 100, it's going to reset the password to 0. Okay. Now you're going to want another get vector. I'm just going to steal this one. You can get rid of the row because you don't want it to change row. It's going to be row 1 because the time is stored in this number here. So if you want 60 seconds per press, not 60 seconds, 60 ticks, 1 second between each button, or 1 second limit for each press. Alright, so that is going to be linked to the duration of this. I'll pull this over here so it looks a bit nicer. And the delay on this. So that's going to pull its value from there. Now obviously this needs to be set to index 1 because it's the second column, the second row of the second column. Those two don't change ever, so that just stays like that. We're also going to need to grab another one of these. It's going to be there. It's going to be row 0, index 1, because it's going to be pulling this number here, this 5. It's going to be comparing this value to this value. So what we need is a generic filter. Let me just get rid of that and reset that. We want to compare this value to this value, and let me just get rid of that on true as well. Now that is going to come from, where's it going to come from? Let's just have a little look. Oh yeah, it's going to come from this. So every time it increases, it's also going to check to see if this condition is met, because this will then end the event or whatever the output is. So let's just say you want an end event. You got your end event here. On true, it's going to end the game basically. So okay, so that's it. Now if you want to extend it, say you wanted to add another, you would make sure that you would have your new input, which wouldn't be RB, it would be something else, like left stick down, for example. You would hook that up to this. You would give this a new value of 2. Make sure that it is affecting this variable data source here, and that it is linked to this off state event. And that is it. Let's just give that a quick test just to make sure everything's working the way it should. Let's just disable this one first as well. If you want to disable it, just change this number to something really high, and then it will never actually be able to finish. Alright, so what's the password? I haven't actually put a password in. So it's going to be 0 1 1 0 0. Okay, so that's going to be LB RB RB LB LB. Let's give it a little test to make sure everything's working. Oops, I typed it in wrong. Okay, so that at least it times out. The timeout's working. If you see this value on sort of the right hand side of the screen in the variable data source, that is the value that's going to reach. Once that reaches 5, then it ends. So it's reached 1 because I've typed in the first value, and then it resets because I've left it to timeout. If I press the second one, it'll go to 2, then it can still time out. If I press the wrong button, it'll reset. If I press the right code, it will end the event. And that's pretty much it. So all you got to remember is, you know, add as many of these as you want. Make sure that they've got individual numbers. None of the numbers can be the same. And then if you want to condense it down a bit, select everything apart from the triggers and the vector. The reason you don't want to select the vector is because you want to be able to edit that. And then you can just go to properties, extract the function. You'll get this nice little function here. You've got your 3 inputs. You might want to rename these just so that you can remember what they are. So this one is number 3, so it's number 2 even. Alright, let's just 2. This one is 1. It just helps you remember what the actual buttons are doing. So this is button 1, and this one's 0. And then these are just, you don't really need to worry about these, you can call them whatever you want, but they are basically just the 3 outputs of this. One of them will be the password, one of them will be the time, and the other one will be the number of digits in the code. And that's pretty much it. Just remember, you change the password in this column. This is the size of the password, this number here, and this one is the time that you're allowed between each input. And that's it. Okay, I'll end it there because that's